The Kentucky Small Business Development Center is a statewide, nationally accredited program that provides no-cost, confidential business coaching and training services. Whether you're just getting started or are ready to expand, we have the tools, resources, and expertise to help you succeed. We're part of a national network, America's SBDC, with over 1,000 centers across the nation. To learn more about how the Kentucky SBDC can serve you, please visit KentuckySBDC.com or email us at info@KentuckySBDC.com. You can also reach us by calling 888-414-7232. Thank you for joining today's webinar. The chat feature is available for you to ask questions and interact with today's speaker. Please take a moment to introduce yourself and where you are watching from today.
Oops. Hey, welcome everybody. Glad to see you on another Wednesday webinar. Thanks for joining today. And if you wouldn't mind, if you look at the bottom of your screen there, you'll see the toolbar and the chat button. If you just wouldn't mind, just make sure everything's working fine. Just go ahead and put your name and where you're watching from in the chat. Say hello. Make sure that you can see us and you can hear us okay. Looks like Patty joined from Louisville. Hey, Patty. And Steve from Harrisville, West Virginia. Nice. Jeff Jewell, my good friend. I'll see you on Thursday. Steve Chadwick, great online marketer and SEO expert. Know him well. So welcome everybody. So again, just put your name in the chat, say hello. Again, if today's your first time, I'll just remind you, I'm Dave Etkin. I'm the director here of the Louisville Small Business Development Center. We're one of 13 centers across the state. Last week we had some great guests on, and this is all part of just a little backstory. My team and I were having a discussion a few weeks ago about our burnout and overwork. And so I thought, what a better opportunity to bring some experts online, because I'm sure everybody else is kind of struggling with this idea and these problems as well. So I have a great guest today. Janna Donovan is an author of a book called The Burnout Diaries, and she's also a therapist, and she's a work stress specialist. She has a lot of corporate experience that she's kind of brought into her therapy and practice, and just a great resource. So Janna, thanks for joining us today. I can't wait to talk about burnout and work stress, because we have it plentiful here.
Absolutely. Let me share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and get started.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, David and Ryan, for having me. This is such a privilege. And yes, it's not a topic we think we want to talk about, but I promise this is not going to totally be Debbie Downer and difficult things. So today's topic is preventing entrepreneur burnout. And I like to always start with a quote from Socrates: "I've come here to learn what I already know." So especially if you attended last week with Shelley and Amanda, you really learned a lot of great information about and even walked through some practices on your neurobiology and how to prevent some of these things, how to work on your own burnout and work stress. But you can think of me as kind of the prequel to that, is that I'm going to talk a lot about preventing burnout, but let's try to meld the two worlds together. I do come from corporate. I'll explain that in just a second, but we're going to talk about mechanics, mindset, and managing well. So next slide. So yes, I am Janna Donovan. I am a therapist with an MBA, and I do help entrepreneurs prevent and recover from burnout. I do deliver compassion in science, and we know what helps, what works to help people in this kind of situation, and all of us that struggle with work stress. My clients deal with the same things that I assume everyone on this call deals with daily: pressure and perfectionism and procrastination and the perception of other people, and finally getting paid. So I come to this with 20 years of work experience in different things, as David said, corporate world, IT, .coms. And then I've been a therapist for 9 years. So you'll understand a little bit more why I became a therapist. My URL is my nickname. It's www.workstress.guru. And so let's get started. First of all, Shelley and Amanda, if you were here or weren't, they talked us through an arc of really enjoying our job and being extremely motivated, but spending a lot of time at it. And then we can actually go into a lot of work stress, and we're not quite burnout yet, but we can see burnout from where we're standing, and we struggle with it. And then burnout is all the way to the end, where we do have a sense of mental and physical exhaustion. We have a very cynical detachment from other people. And we actually have even a reduced sense of valuing ourselves and what we do. You know, a lot of people on this call have come to do their dream or their calling or their mission, but we can actually have a reduced sense that even matters when we're burnt out. So let's talk a little bit about the symptoms that you may be experiencing of stress and burnout. And 50% of Americans note that work stress is one of their stressors, one of their top stressors. And 25% of Americans pre-pandemic said that work stress was the top stressor. So I think with a lot of these symptoms, fatigue, sleep problems, sadness, IBS, teeth grinding, we sometimes in the business world, we just think those are normal, and we take them for granted that they are going to be there, that we just have to live with them. We just assume. So we might overuse a substance, or especially during the pandemic, a lot of people talked about drinking a little bit too much or more than they wanted to. And then we can have high blood pressure and diabetes even. There's a lot of research that says that work stress is actually more dangerous than secondhand smoke. I wanted to point out two things on this slide before we move on. One is that entrepreneurs and their families are more susceptible to mental health issues than non-entrepreneurs by about 20%. So it's a gung-ho lifestyle. You're really having to do so much ourselves. We're having to generate so much of our own ideas, our own marketing, and delivering the product or service. And then finally on this slide, I'd like to circle the word irritability. Irritability is one of the top reasons that people are referred to me by their loved ones. They can kind of handle like busy times and long hours and us maybe disengaging or not being there during vacation. But one of the things that really can drag us down with work stress is irritability. So this is something that if you're like, oh, well, that's just the tip of the iceberg, I really have been biting people's heads off and things like that. That might be a symptom and a sign that you're really overworked and overworried. Okay. Now the mechanics of work stress and burnout actually happen in two different places. So since so many people on this call today are leaders and they manage teams, I'd like you to look at the environment one a little bit, for yourself, but you might be thinking about your own team in this when we stay over on this panel that says environment. The lack of control is a feeling that you can have as an entrepreneur and your people underneath you if they don't have input to decisions that are made for them. If they have, for example, unclear job expectations, you might say, welcome to being an entrepreneur. I have that all the time. But we might be creating an environment that foments this unclear job expectation. That's one of the 6 things we really need to stick around and stay engaged is clear job expectations, according to Gallup research. Let's see, dysfunctional workplace dynamics. I help a lot of people who actually inherit or work with a family member. These businesses, and so they want to keep them going, or they have longtime partners that they started it with. They had the idea, they've been together 20 years, and they just go, I'm never going to change that person, or this has just gotten to be too much for me. Another one, extremes of activity. You can see that lack of support, social support. The extremes of activity is like not having any clients and then having a ton. You might have experienced that coming out of pandemic. Work-life balance, heavy workload and long hours. And you may willingly take that on as an entrepreneur, but it can be something that if it's long hours without a break, we know that that's highly associated with, a breakdown in like your ability to be creative or come up with solutions to things. And then if you're in any of the helping professions or healthcare, you're in an environment that lends itself more to work stress. But I also want to focus on this individual habits that we have for the mechanics of work stress and burnout. And this, in sitting with people many, many hours of my life and listening to them, these are common things among my, attorneys, business owners, CEOs, different people, managers who say, this is what makes me a work stress hero. I call them heroes because they do tend to have this hero mentality. They're, oh yeah, I take on 2 to 10x of what other people do. I'll make sure we get 200, positive Google reviews while you're doing while you're roofing or you're doing whatever. Catch every ball thrown, in a way. They say, we like to be that person. You want to be the hero, and that's what's gotten you where you are, and you don't want to stop that success. But the third one is that feeling that's very hard. Constantly feeling like it's never enough is actually ironic given the first two. Trying to delegate, but we can't because we feel like it keeps bouncing back to us, that we're delegating to a rubber ball, and it comes back to us. And unhealthy stress in every job worked. When you think about it, a lot of people will sit down and say, I actually have had this no matter if I worked for myself or someone else. I tend to drive and not be able to unplug, and then I get really tired and sort of angry at it all. We hide that we're overwhelmed. A lot of heroes, a lot of my clients are firstborns, and they've just been all their life really, really working with the assumption that they're the ones who have to take care of it. Like, there's no one else. I have to do it. So they don't even notice it's an unseen, unspoken thought that they have. So they want to hide that they're overwhelmed. And we also, all of you have worked really hard on your businesses and on your enterprises, nonprofits, etc. So we expect too much from work. We find that the smallest thing can go wrong, and we're like, oh, well, that really, really got me thinking, or took me down into a well of worrying and fear and, kind of anger and just hypervigilance. So then there's this hero mindset that underlies a lot of the habits. So if you notice all those habits in that environment, there's actually something down below that sits at the heart of what motivates us sometimes. And so I want you to look at some of these, if you would, some of these assumptions that a lot of heroes have in common. And they can drive us to overwork so that we can compensate for them. So see if you do any of these. Imposter syndrome. Others wonder how I got here. Why am I speaking today? Why should I give people advice? We can tend to think that sometimes, and we don't even realize we're doing it, and that we think that other people perceive us, that we're not maybe qualified for what we're doing, and we try to hide that and pedal twice as fast to be respected half as much. So we also, from our great work ethic, from when we're raised by parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles who say, we work hard in this family. So we think naturally people who rest are lazy, I'm not going to rest. Why would I do that? Hard work's what brought me here. So anybody who tells us to rest, we kind of don't trust them. I'll be honest with you. Having work piled on me is love. And I do everyone a favor when I just work hard and stress, and I do worrying enough for everybody. And if I don't worry, it doesn't get done. So that can be an assumption we make, and that we might not notice we're basing our entire life on. We have another assumption that says the problems in my business are kind of unchangeable. They are, they're set in stone. Their laws have been changed. Anything that can come along in your business can be feeling like it's outside of you. The last one is, I really feel like there's, other people don't want to help me, even if they could. And this can come a little bit, get us into that victim stance of, wow, we have had to be the hero. We've had adversity a lot of our life, and we've just had to stand up and do something about it. And so we're not too comfortable delegating or asking other people for help. They might not do it the way we want. So that can be kind of an assumption we make, and that underlies a lot of work stress. And finally, the one that I hear that some people say, when this dawned on me, and I realized I was thinking it really was a game changer. for me. And that is that I say, everything, all my work stress is really someone else's fault. And it's outside of me. It's it's a leader I don't care for. It's a banker I'm not happy with. It's a partner I'm frustrated with. And we kind of, or someone I hired or whatever, but we sit and think it's all outside of us. So that's, just a common assumption that work stress is here to stay, and I probably can't do anything about it. Now, Harvard Business Review points out in the research that they've published that a common misconception, especially among entrepreneurs, is, hey, I love what I'm doing. This is what I was meant to do. I've got a front row seat to everything that I wanted. And that is, I love my job. And I'm really not in danger of burnout. I'm just coming today to help my team. But the research just published shows that actually workaholism and work stress and burnout are not all about the number of hours we work. It's more of a mentality. It's kind of I'm compelled to check and do things and monitor my phone and answer my phone late at night, say 11 o'clock at night. So, and the inability to unplug is a sure sign that we are in danger for a little bit of work stress and burnout on our way. So anyway, so it's really not just if you love your job, you're never going to encounter this, or if you love your business, you're never going to encounter it. Okay, so it's halftime. We've talked for about 17 minutes. And so we want to kind of stop here, and we will have a lot of time later for questions. We've left plenty of time for people to interact with David and myself and Ryan. So this quick assessment, I'd like you to kind of look at and just take a minute. You don't have to put anything in the chat. It's not like that right now. We're just talking about, have I become cynical and critical, at work? Am I, judging? Is my judge so strong against myself and I'm bringing that to other people? Have I become irritable and so impatient with maybe employees, customers, or clients that I'm kind of driving them away or putting some walls between us? Do I find it hard to concentrate? This is one of my first kind of canary in the coal mine when I realized I need to take a break. Really, we need our powers of concentration. Do I lack the energy to be consistently productive? From what David and Ryan have told me and what I sense in seeing some of the people on this call and others from SBDC, is that you guys have an incredible amount of energy. And so you would probably notice this first. Like, oh my gosh, I can't really do what I used to do, and what's wrong with me, and this is not me. I used to be, go big or go home, and that kind of thing. So, and the next one goes along with that. Do I drag myself to work? If this is not you, but it's someone you love, these are things that can help you be compassionate toward them, and not advise them about all the ways they need to change, but just to be compassionate. This other one is, the next one that I highlighted is someone that's very important for me. Do I feel disillusioned about my work? In counseling, we have something called that we have to really watch out for, called compassion fatigue. And so when we find ourselves looking away, not listening as best as we can and as we should, we find ourselves we just unplug or disconnect, and we have to be very careful about that. So when we start to feel disillusioned or have compassion fatigue, we know it's time to take a break, not schedule any clients for that day, find something fun, or learn how to do something fun. All the rest of them, have my sleep habits changed? Asking ourselves these questions. Am I using like food or drugs or alcohol to like feel better, or to feel nothing, to numb? And then the last one you may be surprised about, it says, am I troubled by unexplained headaches or stomach issues or some other problem, physical problem? And you might say, who would ever not notice those? But when you're happy, or you're grinding away, or success is right at your doorstep, you're like, I don't know where that migraine's coming from, or I don't know why I should feel bad. I often ask my husband, I don't even know why that's bothering me. And he'll say, you don't? So we have a lot of blind spots as strong people, and we don't realize that that's connected. And so many times a day, I hear people say, I really never even connected those two things until you asked me about it. So I'm asking you so that you can kind of, do some of that and think about it for yourself or your loved ones. So, okay, now we're going to go into the second half. We've had half time. And so we're thinking about how do I manage burnout, or we maybe say prevent burnout, but manage work stress. And so this order kind of goes in the reverse order of what we talked about. Before we can get to the mechanics and the wonderful things that, Shelley and Amanda taught us last week, even some of the suggestions I'm making and I'm going to make, those are mechanics. But before we can even get to them, sometimes we have to have motivation and check our mindset, that those underlie a lot of our habits and things we're willing to even try, So motivation, I could do a whole talk with you about motivation. And it is the first thing I start with, but it's very individual. And that's not just me saying it. The research really shows that your burnout is very individual, and how you deal with it. It might go back to adversity in your life, either in childhood or in young adulthood. So having the motivation to say, you know what, I kind of don't want to disconnect from my partner, my girlfriend, my kids, I don't want to disconnect from them. And I don't want to be that irritable person that they don't want to be around. So those motivations and some of those other health issues, it's for you to decide what is your motivation to even try some of the things that have been offered to you guys over the past 2 weeks. I think, that's a very individual thing. And we can talk about that later if y'all want to. Mindset and mechanics is what we're going to talk about now. And so I want to point out, first of all, that managing this can be done on 2 levels. And so managing mindset at the individual level, and then I'm going to talk about for your teams and give you some good mindset things and processes about your teams. So recovery from burnout, if you get all the way across that arc, all the way to burnout, just know that if you have a team member that you feel is super, like, very, starting to not show up or burn out, their recovery should probably happen more at the individual level. Yes, preventing burnout at the team level is great for a lot of, having social events, getting people together, finding those friendships and those connections with each other. But once they've come into burnout, we've been told, really, you want to have a lot of these things give the flexibility to your teams to do these things on their own. An afternoon off to celebrate their kid's birthday, an afternoon off to go to the driving range or the shooting range, or I don't know, lots of things that make you have fun or garden. So checking your mindset, going back to question some of those things that I originally talked about. If any of those mindset, if you have any of those, that people who rest are lazy, that you couldn't possibly slow down because you're already behind. Nobody wants to help you, that there's really nothing that can be done about it. So why try? So checking your mindset. Another one that I really hope to challenge you with is to say, experiment with no. Again, as we said at the very beginning, most of you know all of this. We know that. We're just reminding each other. That's the power of coming to something like this, is we just get reminded of stuff we already know. So experimenting with no, why do I use that phrase? Because a lot of times we write down, learn how to say no, and that, in my experience, that doesn't go very far. I have to experiment with it, because what I usually show people is that this is the human brain, or a little plastic portrayal of it. And the part of the brain that we're trying to calm down and try to, in anxiety and stress, and like have it be not bark so loudly, is this brain part that they spoke about last week. This is your survivor brain, and it speaks very loudly when it's trying to protect you from stress, etc. So it is an experiential learner. And before you can move from, say, answering the phone at all hours of night or rushing to solve every problem for your team, you need to experiment with no and say, you know what, I'm not going to answer my phone, say, after 9 o'clock. And then you kind of sit with that experiment and you try that for 2 weeks. And my clients, I advise this to them, and then they say, oh, no, did anything bad happen? Did you lose a client over that? And they're like, no, to be honest with you, I really didn't. Okay. So then can we back it back from 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock so that you can just relax and not be completely engaged in helping somebody or doing something for someone the 18 hours that you're awake. So that's experiment with no, not just got to learn to say no. You have to prove to yourself that you won't suffer any loss from it, or lost clients or lost money. That I don't know. You know what I'm saying in this. Letting other people contribute is a big part of managing our individual stress and sort of managing that mindset of like, no one wants to help me. This can be really hard. The next one, find focus and not fear. Every business coach or billionaire I have ever listened to to train me has always said, top two, what are your top two priorities? Spend 80% of your time on it. And so believe it or not, this goes a long way into saying, no, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I am not going to focus over and let this thing distract me over here that I don't feel like I know enough about or I'm uncomfortable about. Now, you might choose wrong, but most of you have come far enough in your businesses that you are not going to choose wrong. You know the top two things to focus on. Let's move on. We're now at 26 minutes after. So the others are definitely preventing panic is what Shelley and Amanda talked about last week. If you start with a low grade or a fever of worry and stress that you just feel is like, no, that keeps me like strong and motivated and aware and quick. And then you add pandemic stress to it or coming back out of it, out of COVID quarantine, your stress is up here. So a lot of times they will try to get us to lower that in the morning and to where we can prevent panic. So when something arises, we're like, oh, I handled that a little better. So all kinds of people who are successful, and I'm sure many of you also have your rituals in the morning of prayer, meditation, reading, getting your mind set on what you want to think about, not what everyone else wants you to think about. I will say, I want to go back to the one about invest in rest. You can see the rest there. But I want to sit down on that for just a second. Resting for a work stress hero does not come naturally. So we don't benefit often from this suggestion that we go, like I said, go to the driving range, get a massage, knock off early, get our nails done. We don't a lot of times enjoy that because we'd rather be back doing the thing we love. And so we often try resting or we try unplugging on vacation and we just don't get very far. But my advice is definitely, and I've seen it work, is keep doing it till you like it. Keep doing till you find something you really do want to do. If it's vigorous, gardening, then that's your thing. It doesn't have to be just sitting in a corner meditating. So, okay, let's move on to team. Managing a team. And so prevention is more effective at the team level. And so definitely with everyone being up for grabs with recruiters, and even your most engaged and loyal people might be recruited from somebody with all the different platforms they have to talk to your employees. The very first bullet point, you're already doing it. You're here today, you're taking on board some information, you've taken on some from last week. And modeling well-being in your team is actually one of the biggest signals you send to other people that it's okay for them to lower their shoulders. And I've had clients who said, now I don't expect my team to email me back at 5 a.m. or stay until 8 the way I am. I told them to go home. But, a lot of times we say, okay, but they want to please you. They want your respect. So they're going to infer that, hey, if that's the work standard around here, that's what we have to do. So taking care of your own work stress is definitely something you want to do to help your team. Mandating disconnect from work time. I've seen it all through LinkedIn from CEOs and teammates, people that we listen to on LinkedIn that talk about they shut down. They don't even allow you access to your email between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., which I thought was quite an interesting development. So mandating disconnect from work time, mandating that people take their vacation, don't call in. It's become, people are aware of it, so it's been something they've done quite a lot. We've already talked about training the brain to fight chaotic thoughts. That's a lot. If you go back and listen to Shelley and Amanda's talk from last week, you're gonna, if you're motivated now to kind of like, oh, well, I didn't know this was going to help my bottom line. I didn't know this was going to help me keep employees. Let me see if I can, go see what can work for me. Monotasking is another suggestion. These suggestions right here are also from the Harvard Business Review. I definitely quoted a lot. It's not necessarily a Bible, but a lot of people respect it and will, sort of, we all take notice when we see that brand. Monotasking is better than multitasking, although we love it. Those of us who love multitasking and we don't want someone to take that away from us. And it's a thing that's hard to let go of and come back to and just say, nope, I have to clear the decks. This is the thing I'm working on right now. And it's all my brain. I need all of my brain to work on it. Allowing a natural ebb and flow of work is something that we see in IT, in agile programming. They work in sprints and then slow down. But I confess, as a manager, I often would see the peak, and then the work would come down and be less. And I would try to shove more work in there in that slot and put 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. And so I was very guilty of that. And I think those of us with a high energy level, we like that. It was a little bit of a dopamine rush. But for our teams, it if we're just noticing this about ourselves, we can also notice it about our team. Like, take those natural times, take a little bit of chance to, okay, you know what? We just really pushed hard. And this makes people feel appreciated. There's nothing worse than pushing so hard past something. And then all of a sudden, the very next thing up pops their leader and says, and doesn't even sort of stop to thank them. That is one of the biggest work stress things I hear of why people want to leave their jobs is I just don't even feel appreciated. And so this can help is a little bit of that appreciation and flexibility. And finally, I have to look around my monitor. Oh, yes, absolutely. Be kind. I think we're all talking about that in different ways, in all the ways I hear business leaders. We've given you we've talked about some real concrete ways to treat others the way we want to be treated. And that includes appreciation, not judging, not being hypercritical, and communicating that with our workloads, and just not taking time to help people with the things they need to help their families and be strong. Their families are their support system, or the friends that they have. So. Okay, one of the things that David and Ryan generously allowed me to talk about for just a moment is, why in the world would I have any credibility in this? Have I ever felt this? All my clients ask me in one way or another, do you have any experience with this when I'm going through acute, like wanting to just check out? Yes, I have 15 years ago and 15,000 miles away, definitely experienced a great deal of work stress and burnout. And I was a marketing director. And so I actually wrote a book from my exact diaries, from the decisions that were made. And I'm a little too restless for some self-help books that just walk through giving a lot of advice, but never telling me the juicy details. So I wrote this book. 90% of it is a story, and it is definitely written as a novel, and it's every private email, every fight I had with my husband, every thought, every conversation. And people have asked me before, does your husband know you published that? I was like, yes. So I'm very, very, and then I talk about all the details on the way down and the details on the way back up. So we did survive burnout as a family, excuse me, and the very serious thoughts of taking my own life. We kept our family together. We stayed another 3 years in that country, and then we kept our family together and kept love. And I'm very happy for some of the readers I get choked up, I guess, thinking about the readers' reaction to some of it. And you can read them there. One of the ones I like that I would like to point out to you is, even if you're not burnt out, this is helpful for walking alongside those who are. So I definitely would like to say, if you're sort of in acute burnout, hand this book to someone else and say, here's the reason I am the way I am, or here's some insight into why I am like I am. And they might have a little more compassion, and they might understand you a little better. And so I would definitely recommend that. And other people have confirmed some of my thoughts about that, or why I wrote it this way. So finally, I want to pause and have people maybe put in the chat. We have 2 more slides after this, and then we'll get on to a little bit more interactive. And I want to say, are there any takeaways or something that really resonated or struck a chord with you in what we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes? And I can't see the chat, so I will look at it when I stop sharing my screen. But and I'm sure that different folks will help me. So if you could enter that in the chat, I know you guys can see it as well, and that might be it's a little bit of vulnerability, a little catharsis to allow us to talk about how we don't want to be that driveway dad or whatever they talked about last week. Okay, so finally, I also want to, these 3 slides are a little bit of, let's come back up the curve to say the wise hero mindset. What do I replace those thoughts when? I didn't even know that I was assuming and buying into these thoughts. So a wise hero mindset is basically, I'm here and I'm enough. This is where I am. I'm the one who started this business. I'm the one who was given this job to do and this mission and calling. And so I got to bring all of me, and I don't have to be perfect to be good. So that's a lot of that first part. People who rest aren't lazy. They're actually smart. Most business coaches and billionaires will tell you time away, unplugging actually just rejuvenates your ability to innovate, to think of new solutions, a different way to do it, empathize with yourself. There's a million things going on there. Resting is not lazy, it's smart. I come back stronger, more willing, more creative. We don't do everyone a favor when we stress at work, including our employees. We might think that all our family really cares about is the money we bring home. So I've felt that. We've all kind of had maybe that feeling, but we also want to hang on to the people we love. And so we actually don't do them a favor when we allow ourselves to really paint ourselves into a corner from work stress and burnout. Our problems do have solutions. This is one of my favorite affirmations. If I'm kind of finding myself negative or stuck or fearful or just a little too hyper aware of all that can go wrong, I say, no, all my problems have solutions. And I might not believe it at that moment, but I sure do like that affirmation. I was taught that by a great client. So others do want to help us. And if I let them, if I give them the developmental chance, the developmental, pour into some development and give them some chances to make mistakes. And my way might not always be the right way. And so I can't always think that. And so giving other people a chance to help us. And we don't hog the limelight. I'm guilty as charged, early in my career, I feel like I did hog the limelight. I wanted 10 cases, not 2. I wanted to, and so that's kind of, we have to check that we got to check that entitlement at the door, to be good teammates and to be kind to other people. And finally, the wise hero mindset is like, I am the one who has the most influence. I am the gatekeeper. I am the one at the front door of my own everything that happens to me. Almost everything I do and almost everything that happens to me is my responsibility. And I can change an environment or I can leave it. Hopefully I change it. I've done both, but we know that those things are there. If I make everything outside of myself, then I paint myself into a situation of being in jail where I can't do anything about what's bothering me. Then not to totally be negative, but this is something I actually find uplifting. This Bronnie Ware is a palliative nurse who worked for 30 years with people and heard some of their last conversations, some of their last thoughts. And she wrote a book called Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And you can see them there. And I everybody says, I wish I'd lived a life true to myself, been who I really was, not afraid of other people's rejection. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Yeah, I'm totally can say that. I've had the courage to express my feelings. I wish I'd had that. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. And the one that really resonated with me when I first saw this is I wish I'd allowed myself to be happier. 15 years ago, when I had my last and worst sort of time and bout with all of this, I basically learned a saying that said, I've had a great life. I just wish I'd realized it sooner. And so we can be happy if we allow ourselves to. And all of us want achievement, but we also want happiness. So we can find a way to get both of those. So this is the last slide, and there are some books that'll help that I find are all over the board. They are so different from each other. If I put these up there in hopes that one of them might resonate with you because they're so different. The Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Chamine, Little Book of Stress Relief by Dr. David Posen, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, and then Boundaries by Cloud and Townsend has been one book that people say changed their absolute every game, every life that they couldn't imagine how much it did change. That's the front of my website if you'd like to visit it. And there's my contact information. So be careful. I really hope that you can resist the addiction to work, even if you love your business. And there's my contact information. If you like to talk about this, I'm very open to connect with people on LinkedIn as colleagues, and you don't have to come to me as a client for us to have a conversation about a lot of these things. So yeah, I definitely have experienced what it's like to have an addiction to work, and even if you love your business, this can be a little bit of an issue. So I would like to kind of turn this back over to David. He has asked me to leave my slide up a little bit longer though. And thank him again for the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Mm-hmm. That was great. That was awesome. I made a ton of notes, and so I've got some questions, and so here's a good opportunity for everyone out there who's joined us today to really spend a couple minutes and get some information specific to yourself, maybe if you want to put it in the chat, and I'll be happy to ask Janna about it, and we can get some information that we can share with everybody. So my team was just texting me while you were talking about, this is you need to do this, you were just talking about me. So yeah, I've got some things to work on, but one of the things I have a trouble with is, I rarely stop, I rarely take vacations. My vacation would be, I would go somewhere to a conference and get a certification, then I would come back. That's what I would do. But one of my hobbies, I read a lot of history, biographies and stuff. And I noticed that most of the really large names in history, just Winston Churchill, for example, even when things were looked the worst in World War II, when he's trying to save England from defeat, he took vacations about every other month and just turned off for like a week. And I'm thinking, at that time, I thought, why would anybody do that? I mean, all the stuff's coming right at you, and you go on vacation. I mean, well, how does that look to everyone else? But that was super important for him. So what are your tips for somebody that, you can put me somewhere, but I don't turn off. So how do you do that?
Well, first of all, you and I are twins, because I definitely have experienced that same thing. And my husband experiences it too, in that sense of like, I say, oh my gosh, I need to calm myself down. I'll go do a little work. It's like we're definitely always traveling that way and finding things to do that are work related because we love it, or we're a little bit addicted to it. My first advice is that you kind of have to say, gosh, am I getting, just like you just did, you said, well, if Winston Churchill did it, what's the ROI on that? Why in the world would anybody do that when I experienced that working harder and putting out my energy is something that gets me what I want? So if you, for example, owning and having empathy for yourself that says, hey, I like to work. This is how I like to do. I like to travel and get, like you said, even the reading of biographies of trying to like improve yourself are part of something you do enjoy. But you would kind of have to experiment with it and say, is there anything to this? Why do these people that I'm kind of jealous of them, frankly, why can they do it and I can't? Or how did it even enter into these billionaires and business coaches' minds to take off when I've always been taught work harder and grind. So you would have to experiment with it. Just like I said, and often I do with my clients is I say, fold your hands like this And then that feels natural. And then I say, switch your hand, and that feels awkward. And so going to rest where you don't have your book, your big, thick biography of Lincoln, you're going to a conference and that feels you're so familiar with it, that feels wonderful, and it gets your dopamine going. And then when you compare that to, oh, I tried to go do something that I really don't like to do, that feels boring. And you go and you did try to unplug. Well, I tried it once and it just wasn't that fun. It wasn't exciting or interesting. Like, I mean, you're a hockey dude. You don't want to, right? I mean, you need excitement. You don't like, oh, that sounds so boring. So I would think my best advice for you individually would be like, you would find something exciting that would be not work. And, they say rest is not necessarily it's just not the thing you do all the time. So trying to go to one of these cities and then stay behind and get that certification, and then 3 days of like, well, what do the locals do? How do they, you see what I mean? Am I making any sense?
Yeah, exactly. Sean Spencer, how are you, Sean? Great to see you here. She says she's in HR. Most client needs are not urgent, rarely. So regulatory auditors come at 9 p.m., but her clients have gotten spoiled with her answering calls and emails late into the evening and on weekends. How do you suggest that we retrain our clients as we retrain our own minds?
Excellent question. And I'm clarifying if she can say, say that I don't have it right. I want to say that make sure I listened right. Is she saying that she is a virtual HR and she has different clients that she provides these HR services for?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, it can be hard when when she has put out there as her standard or service level agreement is, hey, we're super responsive. We'll get back to you in, they're accustomed to her in 1 hour or something, or 2 hours.
Right.
Yes, and that they can feel like an emergency to them, right?
Right.
So we experience that as counselors. So I think one of the first things Sean could do is sit down and with the team, like walk through like what is an absolute emergency that we would want to respond to. What constitutes they should probably get a warning that we'll be back at 8 a.m. to answer emails. So kind of get the lay of the land first before she may feel really comfortable saying no to these particular emails or questions that come her way. Because a client feels like every HR problem is I have to deal with it before I go in. She might allot a certain time during a Saturday, if that's what she's willing, like office hours, like a professor does. To kind of ease off that feeling of like, well, I always gave them carte blanche and total, access to me. So she might make a plan then for what's my ideal and how am I going to get to that ideal of, well, we don't answer our phones on the weekends. And it's kind of easy for me because I can say that there is an ER, there is an emergency room. There are steps, there are numbers people can call that's on every out of office that I send. So I'm thinking that she could arrange in her own mind a plan for they're going to be fine. What plan am I willing to sign up for, and then experiment with it for 2 weeks. Like that, I didn't get too many complaints. I didn't, if she sees that it goes well, and then she may back off even more and say, well, I don't engage with people on the weekends. How does that sound?
Mm-hmm. That sounds like some good advice. Steve Chadwick says, I recently had a colleague with serious stress and physical health issues, and he was told repeatedly by management they could not inquire due to HIPAA laws. Any recommendations on how you would help a coworker?
Okay. Absolutely. One of the first things that I advise people to ask their friends is, hey, are you doing all right? Or are you doing okay? How are you? Because that first question doesn't imply that I'm that I'm saying you have work stress. I'm not saying you can't handle your job. Another study I read from the Harvard Business Review said that 40% of people with work stress will not tell anyone at work, and they will not allow HR to know about it.
Mhm.
And part of that is because we don't want the really good projects, we don't want them to be taken away from us. So I would say if this person is a colleague and friend, to stay in that colleague and friend lane, and maybe talk more about, the things that they don't try to diagnose work stress. Talk about, hey, are you okay? I noticed you weren't here yesterday, or you said something about that you had a car accident, or, really inquiring as the friend, because we all need a best buddy at work. It's one of the top 6 things that keeps us where we are, is that we have someone who cares about us as a human being. So I hope that is not too vague of advice when someone is really concerned, about someone else that they care about.
No, that was good. John says, back when we were talking about the takeaways, he said one of his big takeaways is that he's trying to take on so much to prove to himself and his team. And then he says, what are the best ways to find support with lack of family/friends presence? I started at 0, feel I have made many successes, but don't feel that I'm getting ahead.
Mm-hmm. So there are definitely connecting points in if John is extremely comfortable and is knocking it out of the park with results, there are colleagues that kind of I was trying to start with where he's comfortable, colleagues in his same profession, building relationships that can turn into friendships. I know it's not overnight. But if he doesn't have family or friends here in the city, it can be hard. It can feel very lonely. And I feel like we just double right back around and go back to work, because we're like, well, there's no one there. So this is what I like to do. So I might really advise that he start where he's comfortable and feels that he does have respect. He has proven that he's able to do this. So associations, networking. I don't know if it's appropriate for him to join any kind of the networking events that happen weekly. We find that those people are as gung-ho and switched on as we are, and like, oh my gosh, I never realized I'd find a friend there. I thought it would just all be about us talking about how successful we are or what can we achieve next. But I would definitely start there, and then invest in personal life. I'm telling you, I have so many clients who come to me and say, this arm is huge because I'm very successful, but this little muscle is like teeny tiny Popeye muscle. As far as I want a romantic partner. Can you help me with that? I want to be closer. I want to get married. I mean, they're not ashamed of it. They're telling me the most personal things. And so it's okay to want that. And there are plenty of books about it too, which is amazing to me. I didn't know there were so many books about it. So building up that social emotional area of our life. We definitely need friends, and we can't deny how much we need that and love,
Mm-hmm. So let me just pose a hypothetical, let's just say I'm super stressed and facing burnout, and I call you up and I say, Janna, can you help me? Will you take me on? I mean, what's the process that you would use with me?
Well, the first thing I would do is say, David, can you set aside about 40 minutes to talk to me on the phone? I don't charge anybody anything when we first have that first conversation. And then we would set a time that was private for you and convenient. And then, I start in and I say, we're going to talk for about 20 minutes and tell me a lot of what made you want to call somebody. And we can start there. And I have 3 questions I'm going to ask, and kind of like, what do you most want to change? And what other areas have you had both success and not so much success at addressing this problem? And then I'm an open book. I allow them to ask me plenty of questions, and I might ask permission to tell you what my clients like about me. That I'm a teamwork, and a lot of my business clients love the fact that I've been in business for 20 years and I've had a toxic environment. I've had a toxic boss, different things that you overcome. And then at the end of the 30 minutes, I say, well, So let's decide what is the best next step for you. And if somebody is saying, well, I think I'd like to continue with you, or you live too far away from me, or I don't want to do teletherapy, or a million things. I do see clients face to face a little bit, and I'm going back to that more. But and then at the end of that 30 minutes, we say, what have we determined your goals are? That can be really helpful, even if we don't have a client mentor, client counselor relationship. So it's really cool. And then at the end we say, yeah, that does sound like something I want to achieve. I have to know your goals before we sort of hang up so that we can know. And then we schedule a time and we can meet regularly, and we can start the process, working exactly on what you said you wanted, not what I decide or anybody else decides.
Okay, interesting. Coming up on top of the hour, I don't see any other questions. So just to let everybody know, we will send a replay of this out so you can watch it over and over again. And we also we'll add this to our library on our website. It's KentuckySBDC.com/webinars. And you can watch this and many other ones that we've done over the last few years. That's a great place to check things out and pick up a quick bit of knowledge. And Janna, I want to really thank you for this. This has been great. This is something that, like I said, my team and I have been kind of struggling with, and we were so glad you came today. And we're going to get your book coming for everyone. And hopefully, folks out there, if you would like to reach out to Janna, there's her contact info there right there on the screen. So please do that.
Excellent. I will stop sharing my screen, and thank you, David and Ryan and Ann and everybody, and Janet, so much for everything, and I appreciate it so much.
Okay.
And I assume we do what we did in the first, so we can play out the thing.
Yep. Well, thanks everybody for joining. We'll see you next week, and thanks, Janna.
Thank you for joining today's webinar. At the Kentucky SBDC, we know small businesses are the heart of our economy. That's why our goal is to help business owners start, grow, and succeed in Kentucky. Find out more about how our no-cost business coaching, training, and resources can help your business. Visit us at KentuckySBDC.com.